So America has V8 muscle, Europe has the Euro scene, and Japan has this huge JDM scene. Now most of us can't afford that car. It's too expensive. So we have to do the next best thing and find the affordable alternative. And that's exactly what I'm going to go over today. And if this video gets 2,000 likes, I'll make a part 2. Let's get started. The first car is the semi-forgotten Toyota midship rear drive 2-seater, or the MR2. It's not forgotten, it just doesn't have the love it deserves. Making its introduction in the mid-1980s as the first mid-engine car in Toyota's lineup. Toyota's focus was mainly to create a fun to drive, frugal, small vehicle with great gas mileage, and they did exactly that and quite perfectly. The second gen W20 MR2 arrived in America in 1991 and ended production in 1999. The base model has 130 horsepower and the turbocharged 3S GTE made 200 horsepower, which only came in a manual. Yep, you heard that right, a 5-speed manual transmission. Stock, the turbo model has a 6.1 second 0-60. The Sport Mag has a great write-up of a fella who upgraded the turbo, intercooler, intake manifold, injectors, and the radiator with stock internals that achieved 410 horsepower. Obviously, after a tune. From the engine to the exterior and the interior, the MR2 is a great tunable car. The main issues with these cars are oversteering, especially in the 91 and 92 model. After Toyota started revisions to try to correct it, but still a bit of an issue. The motor runs off a timing belt, which should be replaced every 60,000 miles. But luckily Toyota made this a non-interference engine. And with that tight engine bay, it's a bit hard to actually work on, but possible. With trunk space, a fun interior, and potential for high power numbers, the MR2 is a wild car. You can find them between $5,000 to $15,000 depending if you opt for a turbo model or not. Lexus LS 400 debuted in 1989 as a 1990 model. Lexus came out with a flagship sedan to compete in the US market. Unlike the competition like Lincoln, the LS 400 had very nice steering and boat-like features that simply made the car glide over bumps. It's also referred to as being the million-mile Lexus because it's just that reliable. But who cares about that? We want to remove that luxurious, comfortable suspension and install something that allows this car to handle. Then take advantage of that smooth 4-liter 1UZ FE V8 motor that can withstand 500 horsepower with its stock internals. Well, at least the pre-95 models, because from 91 to 94, the 1UZ had beefier rods. Later models can also handle that power, but not nearly as reliably. Unlike the previous car, it is much easier to work on these cars due to the size of the engine bay. With upgraded headers, intake manifold, throttle bodies, and machined head, you'll see roughly 348 horsepower to the wheels with a plug-in ECU kit. Of course, you can go further with forced induction as well. And I'll link a write-up down below if you want to learn more about the 1UZ's potential. Here is an example for $5,000 with under 150,000 miles. Power steering is out. That is one of the common issues with these cars. The Honda Civic. In 1989, Honda introduced the revolution of VTEC in the Honda CRX. Honda developed the B-Series motor, which is arguably the best budget-friendly motor from Honda to build to achieve nearly 800 horsepower. This is engineering at its finest. During high RPMs, the engine's VTEC swaps from a smaller camshaft to a larger camshaft to increase the power, without needing a larger engine. The second gen B16A is probably what you want because it has new pistons, upgraded throttle body, and camshaft with 107 horsepower, which is the second beefed up motor behind the Type R motor, which has 185 horsepower, but not as easy to come by for obvious reasons. With bolt-ons, you are able to achieve a solid 200 wheel horsepower, which is pretty great in such a light chassis. The B16 second gen can be found in these cars, but the Civic is by far the easiest to find cheaply. You can find a Civic for sale between $1,000 to $4,000 depending on the condition. I personally like a project car, and the hatchback is pretty sweet. Lexus IS300 XE10. BMW has their entry-level 3 Series. Audi has their A4, and Lexus wanted to get into the fun and introduce their entry-level luxury car, the IS300. The IS300 did come with a secret, a powerful, tuner-friendly, and very impressive 3-liter inline-six motor, the 2JZ-GE, the variant of the Toyota Supra's twin-turbo motor, the 2JZ-GTE, which by the way cost nearly $7,000 used. when you could get a variant for a fraction of the price. The main differences between these two engines is that the GTE, the Supra engine, has an oil drain plug for turbos, piston oil squirters to increase piston lubrication, water-cooled oil filter housing, bit better airflow to the heads, although the GE's is still pretty great, and it has thicker rods and a lower compression ratio, which is better for turbos. The IS300 has 215 horsepower and 16 to 23 miles per gallon, but with proper engine modifications, you can see above 1,000 horsepower like the Super Bros. Other than that, the GE is insanely reliable and able to be tuned just right. You can find one of these around $3,000 to $6,000. Nissan 350Z. This is a sports car through and through. From the seats to the suspension, built to be fast and functional and not haul around more than 2 people. But that's why we like these type of cars. The 350Z is a staple when it comes to the drift scene. It is nearly impossible not to see one going around corners when you go to a drift event, and because of that, there are a bunch of aftermarket parts for just about everything 350Z. Stock, the VQ motor made around 306 horsepower with a 0-60 of about 5.3 seconds, which is quite a bit for such a small car. There are a large number of people who turbocharge their cars and easily achieve above 400 horsepower with their DE motors reliably, and 500 horsepower with their HR motors due to its lower compression ratio and thicker rods. Of course, with a good tune from a well-respected tuner. The HR motor was stolen into the 350Z in 2007. You can find one of these between $4,000 to $8,000 depending on the condition. Keep in mind, this is prices in Texas. In other places like Florida, you can probably find all these cars for $1,000 to $2,000 cheaper. Whatever you just drive to Florida and tow that sucker to Texas. There you have it, 5 awesome JDM tunable cars that can probably slay supercars if you tune them just right. Which one would you pick? Since I'm currently botting on a budget, I would probably grab the Honda Civic. Instead of ricing it out, I will make it into a civil, nice, comfortable daily driver that also has a great amount of power with great gas mileage. This is Chris AutoMotivate. Always appreciate and respect one another. I'll see you in the next video.